Welcome to another edition of the Official Jets podcast, powered by Amazon Web Services. Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen, back in the home office. NFL protocols got a little intense. They kicked us out of the BetMGM studio, essentially, and now we're back at home, just like Mark GA.
Listen, we're dealing with the pandemic. The world continues to confront an invisible enemy. I'm hearing that we're getting good news on the vaccine front, and that can't come soon enough. And this goes down the list of importance. But man, I really do not enjoy working from home. We have a beautiful new studio at One Jets Drive. We were fortunate, blessed to be there at the BetMGM studio for months, but unfortunately, we are back home working remotely. And, bottom line, this is insignificant compared to what everybody else has dealt with, but I prefer to be at the complex. Like I bet you a lot of people would.
I definitely am one of those people. And if you have a Ferrari in the garage, like the BetMGM studio, might as well drive it. But alas, we're just here at home going about our business. That doesn't mean the coverage stops. We got Bryce Hall on the podcast. Bart Scott joins us for our Victorinox Swiss Army Knife Player of the Game segment.
Have you ever driven a Ferrari?
No. Have you?
No, no, no.
I mean, it sounds nice.
I've
I would
never
like to
driven,
drive a Ferrari.
never driven a Corvette either.
That makes two of us.
All right.
But so yeah, I've never driven a Lamborghini if we're going down the list, or a
Well, the
Porsche.
aforementioned Bart Scott's got a car collection, so I want to
Yeah.
let us take one of his mobiles out for a spin one day.
Yeah, well, maybe, that sounds like a good pandemic activity. We'll all mask up, get in the car. He can show us a collection. Anyway, we got Bart on. We got Bryce Hall on. Bryce Hall's real interesting story. We talk about this with him, but he's kind of like on that Bless Austin track where you sit out the first half of the year, you get thrown in the fire, you become a fan favorite pretty much early on. And I think that fans really like the way that Bryce Hall has been competing over the past 3 weeks.
If you're a fan, this has been a super frustrating season. You're entering December now, and the Jets don't have a win. With that being said, you got to be encouraged by what you're seeing out of Joe Douglas's first draft class. Mekhi Becton, one of the finest rookies out there right now at the left tackle position. Looks like he will be a pillar up front for years to come. Denzel Mims continues to thrive at 5 consecutive games. He's only played 5 games, 40 plus yards receiving. He does something every game now where you're like, wow, this guy, he really could be something in the National Football League. Ashton Davis starting the last few games alongside Marcus May, of course. And the list goes on. And then we go to the 5th round. You get Bryce Hall. Obviously, a tough start to his career. Suffered a serious ankle injury at Virginia. People are talking about him maybe potentially as a first round, second round pick. Instead, he lasts to the 5th round. He's not available for the Jets to play until halfway through this season. Now he's 3 games into his NFL career. He's already started twice.
And I mean, you really talk about being thrown into the fire. He gets activated hours before playing against the New England Patriots on Monday Night Football in your NFL debut, and he's started ever since. I think what I really like about Bryce Hall is he's got height, he's got length, and he was one of those guys where, you hear about a lot of players like Bryce Hall in the draft where they slide because they're hurt, and then you never really hear a whole lot about them after that. Well, Bryce Hall, that's not the case. I would say he's played well for a rookie in his second and third games in the NFL. He's obviously had a very tough challenge against Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in his first start. And then Devontae Parker is a very good receiver too, and an extremely physical, tall receiver. And Bryce Hall, the rest of the year, I think you just want to see him keep improving. And Phil Savage said this once when the Jets drafted him, that the organization was betting on the future with Bryce Hall, and I think you're starting to see why.
He found a ball that last year he played at Virginia, last full year at UVA. He led the NCAA in pass defenses. Big guy, physical, long. You can tell he loves ball. He's not intimidated by the moment right now. Yes, these guys are definitely have been put in the fire in the secondary. You're talking about there were a couple plays out there against the Dolphins, where Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been playing in the NFL for 175 years, he's lining up and he's looking at a secondary that has Bryce Hall starting, has Lamar Jackson, undrafted free agent out of Nebraska. Javelin Guidry got in there for a few snaps at the cornerback position. The aforementioned Ashton Davis. So these guys are all learning, and sometimes they're going to have rough moments along the way. But Hall is a kid who's got a great attitude. And again, a lot of quarterbacks have very good physical attributes, but they can't find the football. He showed in college that he can find it. So let's see where his path takes him. But definitely the moment hasn't been too big for him. I thought the secondary played better against the Dolphins than they did against the Chargers. And they got another test this week against the Las Vegas Raiders because the Raiders got smoked against Atlanta, and they're going to come in here as a desperate bunch. Derek Carr, sometimes he looks like an elite quarterback, and sometimes he struggles, but they do have some weapons, and Hall is going to be better for all these experiences to come.
All right. Well, enough talking about him. Let's hear from Bryce Hall. Bryce, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the first things first, I got to get this out of the way. You're an ACC guy. I'm an ACC guy. I'm a Syracuse alum. So Syracuse and Virginia don't really like each other, at least on the hardwood. But football, I mean, we don't really play football up there. So did you ever play Syracuse?
No, I never played Syracuse.
And what is the rep of Syracuse basketball on Virginia campus?
Oh, we're every time we see him on the court, we got to win that one. That's a must win.
Well, Bryce, I went to graduate school at the University of Florida. Your last collegiate game
Yeah.
was against the Gators in the Orange Bowl, and LaMichael Pirine had a big game. Have you guys had an opportunity to discuss that? You're both of your guys' last collegiate game against each other.
Yeah, we so unfortunately, I was injured during that game, so I didn't get to play. So, but I've definitely talked to LaMichael and Jabari also, he played.
Mm-hmm.
But I talked to them, multiple times about that game and just us playing against us. It's funny because like those Florida dudes, they got so much pride and they feel like, we weren't even supposed to be with them in that game. And so I always, I'll talk trash to them and tell them like, how you gonna let us, we should have beat y'all actually. You let us hang around. So it's funny when I talk to them about
Well, the
that.
reason I bring that up, though, is because I think it speaks to what you guys built at the University of Virginia. And you talked about it the other day that when you were a freshman, you were 2-10. And obviously, you got hurt your senior season, so you weren't able to play in that ball game. But you guys went from 2-10 to an Orange Bowl appearance. If somebody asked you why you guys were able to build it up, what were the most significant reasons?
Well, first off, we had a coach that, our head coach, Bronco Mendenhall, he was an exceptional leader. And one of the things that he instilled in us was first off, he always talked about will before skill. So it wasn't about talent. It wasn't about, the ability. It was about if we wanted it bad enough. And so he instilled in us just a belief and a vision that it wasn't a matter of, if we would turn things around, it was a matter of when and with whom. And so the choice was up to us, really. And so he just really instilled that just belief in us that we could really, be successful. And on top of that, we worked like crazy, in the off season and during the season, and our work ethic matched what we were trying to accomplish. And I think, with that, that really helped us turn things around at Virginia.
Bryce, what do you like to do in your free time in a non-COVID world, and then this season as well?
Uh, I mean, with my free time, I just like to spend time with my wife. We hang out, relax, watch some, movies every once in a while. And, I like to read, something that keeps me emotionally stable. I like to, memorize and read scripture and stuff like that. That's kind of off the field and away from football. I like to, get away and then close into, I stay, me and my wife, we hang out, relax. I don't really do too much, especially during the season. Um, and, stuff like that just helps me stay locked in and at the same time stay emotionally grounded and I'm in the right state of mind.
How long have you been married now, and where did you meet your wife? Because a lot of guys, your fifth round pick out of UVA, a lot of guys your age at this point in their careers, they're still single. Mhm.
Yeah, honestly, so I met my wife obviously at the University of Virginia. She played field hockey there,
Mhm.
and we were acquaintances. We weren't really like close until like we actually went on a mission trip going into my at the year going into my senior year, and there we really got really close. And after that, it was just a friendship, and then after, that friendship, it was kind of flowed into the relationship. When I broke my ankle, my senior year, that's when I had really had time to get away from football. I was, before the season, I was go, go, go focused. And then, she was helping me out a lot. And we really got closer during that time. And so from that friendship, it flowed into a relationship. And not too long, like not even we were dating for about like 6 months, and then we ended up getting married. Things were moved really quickly. But I just think, we knew, um, pretty early, like I knew like she was the one, that I really wanted to be with. And so things kind of moved really quickly. I mean, I never expected to be married this early or this young, but it just kind of worked out like that. And, I'm happy it did because it was the best decision I ever made.
Awesome. That's awesome, Bryce. You told me on the 40-yard stroll that your dad and your wife are the two cooks in your family. You're just a
Yeah.
taste tester. So what is your wife's best dish that you like?
Wow, she impressed me this Thanksgiving since it was our first Thanksgiving. She made some really good food. I mean, with the sweet potatoes, the
Mm.
macaroni, the green bean casserole, like that might have just notched some of the things she's done in the past. So it's hard to say. But yeah, Thanksgiving meal was good. She also does make this really, really, really good like pumpkin salad. It's kind of like a New Zealand dish where it's like, pumpkins and it's like healthy, like with rice and chicken and all this other stuff. So
Whoa.
yeah,
How
yeah, it's good.
competitive are you two with each other? She played field hockey.
Yeah,
Obviously, now you are a pro football player. You guys don't get to these points in your lives without having great drive. So I got to
yeah.
imagine sometimes there are certain things that you're competing against each other.
Well, she's honestly more competitive, I think, like than me in a lot of things. Like, and an example of this, we like played golf together, like before in the this past summer. And she was like our personalities just came out. I was like more the because this is the first time we both like really played golf, and so she's like, just get the ball on the tee, hit it, let's go. And I'm like trying to analyze what's the swing technique, what like I need to do to have the most successful hit, and then she was just talking trash the whole time, just like you gonna like like literally just trying to show me up on the golf course, and I had to like refrain myself from like getting caught up in the mess because she is very like she loves to like talk and chat, and so she was very vocal on the golf course like and but she's very competitive and a lot she kind of has a little chip on her shoulder since she knows I do this for a living. She likes to jab at me to let her know she still got it in her. So yeah, I'll say that.
All right. Well, so what I gathered from that is one, that you're new to golf, and two is that you're not a huge trash talker, or is that just trash talking on the golf course? Like, do you talk at all on the field?
Yeah, it's funny because my form of trash talk is different from a lot of people's. Like you'll get a lot of people that yell and, they'll let you know. I'm more of the type that I'll have a conversation with you and it'll be more like, directive and like I'm actually saying things rather than just yelling. And I think that gets under people's skin a little bit more because I'm not yelling, but I'm calm when I'm speaking, and it's like it throws people off. So, that's kind of how I go about doing that. But for the most part, I'm pretty locked in on what I need to do, and it'll come out if I get provoked a little bit. But that's kind of my angle, and I found like a little bit in college that's I've had more success with that than yelling. So that's
Lo-
kind of how I do it.
Locked in, but have you always been blessed with patience considering what you've been through over the last 18 months? You go down against Miami. You decided to come back. A lot of people said, hey, Bryce Hall, if he came
Yeah,
out, would have been a first, second round pick. Instead, you go back, you go down with a serious injury, you got to rehab, you're a fifth round selection, and
hmm
then you don't get on the field for half of your first professional season. And now you're
yeah,
3 games into your NFL career.
yeah. It's not something I always had. It's something I had to like really grow into, and I think through the things that I've been through, it's made me a very patient person. But I wouldn't change a thing. I really felt led on my heart. I felt like, because I didn't just make the decision off a whim. Like, I talked to people, I had prayed about it, I, really like sought wisdom in what I was doing, and I really felt on my heart. The Lord and people was like, was saying, it's time to come. Like, you should come back. Like, there's more. And I don't regret my decision at all. Had I not come back, I never would have met my wife. I never would have, I learned so many lessons through all this stuff, and just, what I've gone through, and just being able to just learn so much and develop and challenge and push me as a leader and a person. And so, I don't believe that I made the wrong decision at all, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And yeah, that's just kind of how things went, and I don't question, um, how things ended up. And yeah, we have our own ideas and plans of how we would like things to turn out, but it doesn't always happen. And sometimes we look back and we're like, oh, now I get why I had to go through certain things. So that's just my mindset and my opinion on it.
Bryce, do you talk to, or have you in the past talked with Bless Austin at all about his path? Because when I look at his path, he was someone that was coming off an injury when he got drafted, 6th round pick with talent, spends the first half of the year getting healthy. And then, similar to you, after the bye week, he starts to play and he gets thrown into the fire early, very much like yourself. So I was wondering if you two have had any discussions about that in particular.
Yeah, definitely. He has been somebody who's been really like helpful for me in this process because he literally went through the same thing. And so he's been, super helpful with just giving me tips and pointers and just helping me be prepared for what to expect and what to, you know, do to put myself in the best position possible, to be ready. And so I have gone to him. He's been, a good teammate, and he's been helpful on this journey.
That's one of the best public institutions in the United States, the University of Virginia. So tell us what you studied in Charlottesville and why you decided to go in that direction.
So I majored in this actually is a new major that that came up, or that was instituted a few years ago, and it's called Youth and Social Innovation. So
Mm.
it's basically in the School of Education. So it's very, very wide open as far as what you can do with it. But basically, it's just, in some form or capacity, I'll be educating the youth and impacting them in a positive way through, whether it's, if I wanted to be a counselor, if I wanted to do, after school program, or, whatever it may be. That's what I majored in. And I loved it. We got to do, a lot of field work where I went in and worked with kids and stuff like that. And I thought it was awesome.
So, given what you just said and what you studied, if football weren't an option for you, or even let's just say down the road, like what do you hope to do given your education?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, You know, a couple people have like, said, you could go in and like do some type of like motivational speaking or do something like that, where I'm just like helping to, motivate people, or if I'm helping to inspire young people or teach in some sort of way. So I have no idea honestly what I would be doing, because there's just so many plethora of options that I could do. But I know I'll probably be, teaching some young people something, whether if it's life skills, whether if it's, football or um, that is just probably what I would see myself doing, because I just like to do that naturally. I feel like I got a lot of knowledge and experience, and I could just help teach people what I learned.
Back to the field as we flip back and forth here. Do you ever have a moment where you got to pinch yourself and you're lining up against Devontae Parker, one of the NFL's top receivers, and you're being asked to play man coverage, and you come over to the sideline and say, "Man, I'm here. This is it."
I had that moment actually last week when I was going against Keenan Allen, and because that was pretty awesome. And I had the moment when I stepped in, like my first game when I played against the Patriots, that was that was really cool. Cam Newton and just the Patriots and everything that they're known for. I kind of didn't really have time because I was, everything's happened so fast. I didn't even know, I was thrown in. But I would say last week when I walked into that stadium, the Chargers stadium, it was the most beautiful stadium I honestly have ever played in or seen with my own eyes, rather let alone like just any visuals. And that was the moment where I was like, wow, this is, I'm here. And I don't take this for granted. And I was just super grateful. And it was really, really cool because my teammate, Joe Reed, who I played in college, he's on the Chargers. And so I got to talk to him and share the moment with him. And I was like, we're talking like, man, we're just so proud of each other for like, we made it. We're, living the dream here. This isn't easy by any stance, just because, we're in the NFL and it's not all, roses. Like every day is a challenge, every time you come to practice, everybody's good in this league. And so it's like, that's a reality. But when you get to step back in moments like that to say, and be a kid again, it's pretty cool.
Bryce, appreciate the time here on the podcast, and stay safe and keep playing well.
Thanks,
Yes, sir. I
Bryce.
appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
And good luck on the golf course.
I'll need it.
EA, how about Bryce Hall and his wife trash talking on the golf course?
I love it. That's the only way to play golf. I'm more that Happy Gilmore style. I still haven't figured out the game, and I try to control my temper out there in the golf course, but it's awfully challenging. But if I'm playing along somebody who I'm very close with, and who would you be closer with than your wife? I love the back and forth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've just started golf probably about the same time Bryce Hall did in quarantine, like in the summer. I'm not good, but golf is infuriating. And if someone tried to get under my skin, they might catch a club. So,
Well, let's preface the statement by saying Bryce Hall and his wife happily married. Wow, they're
yes,
they're
yes.
competing. Ethan Greenberg sounds like he's got some serious temper problems.
Which is actually very much not the case, but golf is just, it just pisses me off. And it just really frustrates me. I got to be honest.
I,
Like, because
I,
I know what I want to do and I know what I have to do, but right now I can't do it. Just can't do it.
it's a hard game to pick up later on in life. That's what I think. I'm not very good with the wood. Irons, I'm more competitive. I'm more accurate. I can't hit a wood to save my life.
Yeah, you give me a driver, I'll take my 5 iron out of the tee box all day. Anyway, enough golf talk. Now, this Las Vegas Raiders team, I mean, you had mentioned some of the players on their roster, but the Jets saw this team. It's a pretty similar team, I would say. Obviously, like every year, you add some new players, you see some people go, but more so than not, it's about the same roster that came to MetLife last year about the same time, and the Jets ran the Raiders out of the building. I think it was 34-3. And this year, I think you start to think of the speed that they have on the outside in Henry Ruggs, the first receiver off of the board out of
Mm.
the very talented wide receiver group. I mean, he's the fastest player in this draft class. And then you start to think of someone like Nelson Aguilar, who's been essentially reviving his career so far in Las Vegas.
Well, John Gruden is a great play caller, and they're building something in Oakland. If you look at, well, they're building something, all right, but it's in Las Vegas, Eric.
There it
I
is.
keep on getting tripped up with both the Raiders and the Chargers. I always refer to the Chargers as San Diego. No, they're the Los Angeles Chargers, of course, and the Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. And Bryce Hall was talking about SoFi Stadium. I've heard that new stadium in Las Vegas,
Mm.
it might be the nicest of them all. I can't wait to go out to Vegas at some point and catch a game there and maybe drop by a casino just to browse and stuff like that. But yeah, listen, John Gruden, a fantastic football coach, good offensive play caller. I think the Raiders a couple weeks ago, they played Kansas City for a second time and
Mhm.
back and forth affair. And you really don't see a lot of teams play the Chiefs like the Raiders have, especially this year. They beat them in Kansas City where Derek Carr was dialing long distance. I think they had like 6 plays of 40 plus yards through the air. Dealing with some injuries. We'll have to see what happens with Josh Jacobs because he was an awfully impressive rookie last season for them. And Gruden likes to run the football, make no mistake, even though this is a West Coast offense. And Bart talked about some of these guys defensively who can bring it, but I was shocked what happened to the Raiders last week.
Mhm.
Similar to what happened to the Raiders last year when they came to MetLife Stadium. They were 6-4, and the Jets hammered them 34-3. While they're 6-4, they go to Atlanta. I don't even know what the final score was, Greens. I think it was like 43-6. That was
That's
one
it.
of the one of the most shocking results in the National Football League this season.
Yeah, I thought in that game in particular, the Raiders Falcons game, that at the very least it would have been competitive. It would not have shocked me if the Falcons had won that game, but the way in which they won that game, that did shock me. And last year, before we hear from Bart Scott, the Jets did a fantastic job holding Josh Jacobs in check. And that was
Yeah.
really where that run defense hit its stride. Remember, they held Saquon Barkley to a single yard when they played the Giants, and Josh Jacobs didn't have a great game against the Jets. And that the Jets front is predominantly the same, a little different with no Steve McClendon. And on the Raiders side of the ball, that offensive line's played together for a long time, and they're without Richie Incognito for the rest of the year. But it's still, that's going to be the matchup to watch, I think, if you're a Jets fan. But obviously, this is why we have Bart Scott on the podcast every week. Welcome to another edition of our Victorinox Swiss Army Knife Player of the Game with Bart Scott. Bart, the Raiders come to town the first time as the Las Vegas Raiders. Who is your player, or what is your matchup to watch?
I mean, this is going to be tough. I want to see Quentin Williams against Rodney Hudson. I want to see him against that deep offensive line, that massive offensive line of the Raiders. No player outside. Well, listen, no player, and that's including Mekhi Becton, is playing better than Quentin Williams. You see the show that he was able to put on the other day. They like to run the ball with Jacobs. It's going to be incumbent that that he doesn't get cut out his gap and that he's dominant and he's setting the edge from the inside out. You talk about 8 tackles, a forced fumble, and a sack. That's a pretty great day for an inside linebacker. It's an awesome day for a defensive lineman to have that many tackles and still have that type of productivity.
Bart, what do you think about his emergence here in year 2? He's got 6 sacks. Like you talk about, he's coming from the interior. The guy, the most elite defensive player from the interior position for years has been Aaron Donald. What kind of ceiling does a guy like Quentin Williams have? Because he's been stout against the run too, and he continues to get after the quarterback. 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles now, and he's got 3 PDs as well.
Well, let's talk about the 2 or 3 sacks that he missed out on because he maybe went to the helmet of the quarterback in the Denver game that should have been a game ceiling sack. Let's think about the couple games that he missed. I mean, the ceiling is high. Remember, everybody panic because he didn't have the productivity in year one. One, he had played nose guard the majority of his career, and he was moving over to the 3 or the 5 technique. Now he's starting to learn. He had a great offseason. He came in shape. His body looks totally different. And now you can tell when the ball is hiked that he has a plan. He has a plan on how he's going to handle the run and the blocking schemes that he's getting. And just imagine, he's just scratching the surface because in the near future, Joe Douglas is going to put somebody on the other side of him that you have to respect as well, that you can't double him, but he's going to get a lot more one-on-ones, especially in a 3-4 type of system.
And Quinn Williams, just 22 years old, one of the youngest players in the NFL. EA, what about your matchup to watch?
It's going to be the Jets safeties, Marcus May and Ashton Davis against Darren Waller. Waller has 64 receptions for the Raiders this year, a big-time target in the red zone. Derek Carr looks to him often. He's got 5 touchdown receptions, and he's the guy who is tough to have an answer for because even when you have a body on him, as Bart knows, he's 6'6", so his catch radius is out of this world. How are they going to defend this guy?
Well, you got to try and hit him at the line and try and put a defensive lineman over him and saying, hey, slow him down before he goes. We used to do that with Gronk. You take Jason Taylor, take Calvin Pace, no matter where he is. You hit him first, and then it turns into a line stunt. So you put him there, you hit him, and then the interior defensive tackle is getting up the field. And then after you hit him, it turns into a bit of a you game or a me game, depending on what system that you've been in. But you got to make sure you disrupt the timing. And they're going to be pissed off because they're coming off a disappointing loss, and they have playoff aspirations. So they're going to come in, and they're going to try not to waste time. But you always worry about a West Coast team coming East Coast. Hope that you can catch them sleepwalking early on and jump on them soon.
That's the thing, Ethan. That's the thing is the Jets have to take care of the middle of the field defensively. I thought they took a lot of steps forward against the Miami Dolphins with those young cornerbacks, even though Devontae Parker got his numbers. Mike Gesicki got in the end zone. The Jets have to neutralize this guy.
Both of you went on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like it's only right that I go for the Jets offense here. And Sam Darnold last season against the Raiders had one of his best games since being drafted in 2018. And this defense is pretty similar. Obviously, last year, the Jets didn't see Jonathan Abram, the Raiders rookie safety. And now they still got Trayvon Mullen on the outside, the corner from Clemson. Damon Arnett is a new addition there. Jeff Heath, who signed over from the Dallas Cowboys along with Jason Witten in the offseason. But I think that this is going to be a pretty big opportunity for Brashad Perriman and Denzel Mims and Jamison Crowder because they put up numbers last year against the Raiders offense. Bart, what have you thought of this Raiders defense so far in 2020?
I mean, you got to love Crosby. You got to love the nastiness of what they play in. And this is a team that Al Davis would be proud of. This team that competes. It's a team that's physical and fast, and they get to the ball. And, Gunther, has them playing really well and tough, and they're going to be motivated. Whenever you can bend the corner, bend the edges. Now, I think they'll be trying to bend the edge opposite of Mekhi Becton. I don't think Crosby will be over there trying to get that type of smoke. But, I think he'll be on the other end. You think of Jonathan Hankins on the inside. They're stout against the run. It's going to be a formidable opponent, but they're going to have to be up for the challenge because they're going to be playing a motivated team that sees light at the end of the tunnel, sees the opportunity to get into the postseason. And listen, they don't fear the team that everybody fears in the Kansas City Chiefs because they played them twice. So if they get that matchup, they may be the one team that can upset those guys.
Bart, the Raiders, just one last point on the Raiders here. Their offense, EA mentioned Darren Waller. Henry Ruggs hasn't really been super effective for them. Obviously, he stretches the field, but what does it say about that offense where Darren Waller is the primary target? And what do you make of the receivers that the Raiders have?
I mean, they're built in the likeness of the Kansas City Chiefs. You think about Waller, he's a guy that can get open. He's a guy that's a receiver playing a tight end position, but he's still stout enough and strong enough to be, really effective in a running game. And, Ruggs is a guy that can stretch the field. You say he hasn't been effective, but he had a long touchdown catch against the Falcons, yesterday. So, Nelson Aguilar has been a guy who always, had inconsistent hands, but you just hope that you're not on the part where he decides to catch him or he has to extra stick him on the gloves. So he is still a guy that's more than capable of getting behind the defense. And the Jets are going to have to be wary of double moves. And Carr, to me, no matter what anybody says, is an elite quarterback.
All right, well, there you have it. The Victorinox Swiss Army Knife Player of the Game segment with Bart Scott. And that's another edition of the Official Jets podcast powered by Amazon Web Services.